And we're live. Welcome back for anyone watching. This is exciting. So it's been a little bit longer than how I would really want it for these updates, but I just got back in the country, which was my last update was about that. And I've just got a bunch of things going on, so I can't wait to share. So we'll just jump right into it. Get this out of my way. There we go. Mic is good and secured. So it's high holidays, or it has been for the Jewish faith, which, as some of y'all know, I've been converting to Judaism. And so this has been my first Jewish calendar year in kind of the conversion process. So I've hit every holiday. And we had Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and now we've got Sukkot coming up. And there's just so many holidays packed in such a small time frame. But it's really exciting. I made a traditional European brisket for Rosh Hashanah. So I did some rosemary on top. I don't have a smoker, so I put it in a crock pot and I put it on top of vegetables and filled it all the way up to the bottom of the meat with red wine, soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and beef beef broth. So I fill it all the way up in the crock pot to the bottom of the brisket, the fatty side on the bottom, and put potatoes in there and carrots and onions and some garlic. And I just let it cook for about 12 hours on the low setting in the crock pot. And it turned out so good. This is the second time I've done it this way, so I kind of knew what I was doing, but it was so good. Oh, and the dry rub I put on top before I started it was a mixture of like chili powder and onion and garlic powder and some brown sugar, which is, I guess, it's kind of more of like a barbecue influence, but I kind of wanted that brown sugar on top as well. And then, but right before serving it, what I did is I pulled it out of the crock pot, put it on aluminum foil on a pan, poured some of the juice from the bottom of the crock pot on top of the brisket, and then stuck all of that in the oven and put it on broil, on high broil for like, I think it was like 8 or 10 minutes. And that got like the top of the brisket super crispy. And it was so good. It was so good. I just topped it with a little bit more kosher salt on top, and it was just perfect. So I had some round challah bread with raisins in it too to go with it, and it was just a fun meal. I shared it actually with my ex-wife. Had her over, and we just had a nice Jewish meal together. So it was really fun. And let's see what else. Oh, Yom Kippur was this past week. So on Thursday, I did a full day of fasting because I was working. I did have coffee in the morning just to keep from getting a caffeine headache, but that was all I had for the whole day from sunset the night before all the way to sunset on Thursday. And to break the fast, I had pizza. That's just what I wanted by the time the end of the day came around. So I broke fast with a nice pizza, and that was super tasty. What else? So Yom Kippur was nice because it is a day of atonement. It's also, you know, a day of introspection and reflection, and trying to some people use it to kind of like make amends and um, tell people what they're kind of like just reconcile with people. And I liked that idea, and so I did a little bit of that. I did a little bit of just introspection and reflection and gratitude, um, journaling, and then also it was just a nice day to feel a little bit closeness with God, I think, because of the fasting, which kind of strips away some of the day to day stuff and makes you focus on what's important. So it's good. It's a good practice, and I plan to add a little bit more. Jewish like ritual and stuff to it every year. I'm just kind of slowly working my way in as I convert and try not to take on too many traditions and things at once because it's just overwhelming. There's so much to do and so much to try and stuff. So yeah, brisket for Rosh Hashanah and then Yom Kippur fast. And that was how I did it. Tomorrow, October 5th, I have a comedy gig. It's a small ticketed gig at a local bar here in Richmond, Virginia. So I'm excited to do that. It's gonna be really fun. There's a reporter from the New York Times, I think, is gonna be there to follow me. And then there's also a journalist who's based in DC, but she's actually a French reporter, and she's couldn't come down and interview me before and then also go to the show. So it's funny because like some of these gigs, like I think I bring more press to them than I do actual people, which is weird. Like maybe that's a sign that I'm not that funny. I'm just interesting. But I don't know. I think it'll be fun. It'll be a good 10 minutes. I've wrote some new material to do, and then also a lot of my normal act I've been doing, which if you all have seen anything, it's there. It's just more polished version of what I did on Kill Tony. And then some of the other things like I did at Parks Casino and just different pieces. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I also have another gig on the 22nd. That is a fundraiser for a health clinic here in Richmond called a Health Brigade. Um, and that'll be at Gold Lion Cafe on the 22nd. And so it's me and a whole bunch of other comics. It'll be 5 minutes spots each because there's more comics, which hopefully brings more people. And it's just for a good cause for a local health clinic. So that's exciting. And then I'm going back to Texas on November 1st. I'm going to drive out there and I'm going to spend 3 months out there. And, just chilling in Austin, trying to keep on building that name recognition and hopefully get a spot on Rogan's podcast. That's really what I'm after. I'm after a few things, but that's one thing that's kind of been like a driving North Star, I think, since the beginning. I wouldn't say it's my only goal, but it's definitely one of them. Being a regular at the Mothership would be flippin' sweet. I don't know if I can get that inside of 3 months. Um, I don't know if I'm what they're looking for or if I'm funny enough. Like I don't know. I'm so new at this. I've been thinking about it. I started comedy at the end of May, my first open mic. So if I just say June 1st, then, you know, July, August, September, I'm only 3 months and some change, 4 months into doing comedy. So to to expect anything would be silly, but to have aspirations and to work really hard for them, I think is fair. So I'm not expecting it, but I'm gonna keep on working for it. And I did do the open mic at Comedy Mothership before I left. I talked about it in my last video, and that was really fun. The booker wasn't there, so when the booker is there, sometimes you might get, if you do well, at the open mic, you might get a callback, and then that is how you kind of get your audition for being a regular. But he wasn't there that day that I happened to get picked. They only pick 16 every Monday, and I had tried 6 times to get on there, and that was the first time, and it was also my last day in Texas. So from November till January, when I'm there for 3 months, I'll have plenty more time to keep polishing my act and keep trying. It's a 3 minute spot. So yeah, so hopefully I can get on there again, and maybe the booker will be there, and at least give it another shot. I felt like I did as well as I could last time. I don't think I could have done any better, and that might have been the limit of my ability as far as it's still not good enough. But I felt really good about it because I knew I performed to my ability. The worst thing is when you go into one of those environments and you do worse than you normally do. And so I was so glad that I did as good as I've ever done. The big thing was I felt like that time pure joy came through on that open mic. I can even hear it in the recording when I listen back. They don't let you do video in there for their Mothership open mic, but they do let you do audio. And so I had my phone and did audio recording, and it was just it was just joyful. It was just fun. I was really enjoying being on that stage in the little boy room, which is what it's called, and just having some people around me in front of me and just working them a little bit and working off it. It just had so much fun. So hopefully I can keep doing it because it's definitely really fun. I'm going to share this with you all. There was an article that came out in the Observer, in the UK Observer, about Joe Rogan and comedy in Austin. And it's a funny circumstance. I went down there my first weekend, which was at the end of August, I think. When I went down there the last time for 3 weeks, I went to see Dave Smith, and that was on a Sunday show. And I went by myself, and I got seated next to a gentleman who, before anyone had come on, he leaned over and was like, "Hey, I just wanted to get your opinion on like comedy and being a woman and stuff." And I kind of laughed because I kind of was like, "Are you joking? Like, I'm trans, right?" Like, in my mind, I still think that just everyone knows, and he didn't suspect that until I told him. So that was kind of funny. But his name is Andrew, and he reports for the Observer. And it turned out that he was doing a story on comedy, and I just happened to get sat next to him. He just happened to lean over and talk to me. What's funny is I wanted to be sit down near the front, and because I was by myself, they wouldn't let me. And so I had asked to basically get moved, and it didn't work out. And it ended up working out in my favor because I got featured in the article that he was writing because my story's so crazy. And he came back the next day, and we met and did like a 20-minute interview and talked about everything. But yeah, I put it on screen here. It's called Laughing in Joe Rogan Land by Andrew Hankinson. It came out Friday, October 3rd. And it's mostly not about me, which is fine. It's about him going there and kind of the whole world and everything, which is so cool. I love all these behind the scenes details. The Joe Rogan and Donald Trump thing, and just kind of like how politics and Dave Smith and everything is kind of converged. But there is about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way down, there is a big section about me. It talks about going to the event alone and getting sat with someone else and hesitate to ask conversation because maybe they're more boring. And it turns out that I guess I wasn't that boring because he wrote about me after we had our conversation. And so that was fun. So I posted it on my Twitter, I posted it on my Instagram and my Facebook. You all can read it if you want. It's pretty funny. So that is that. What else? Feel free to post and chat if you're on YouTube. If you're on X, I can't see any comments, but if you're on YouTube, post in live chat. We can talk. Uh, what else? Oh, this week I've been doing open mics in Richmond again because I want to work new material. I've come up with a couple of new ideas. I've got a Waymo joke, and I've got a. Oh, thanks, Venus. I appreciate it. Venus says, "Great article. Congrats." Yeah, I'm excited. It's weird that I pull in so much media. So I guess that's a good thing. There's a buzz around me. Um, but yeah, I've been trying new jokes. So I got one about a Waymo, which are the self-driving taxis that are in Austin. And these are all real stories, of course. And then I've got another joke about kind of like marriage and my marriage with my ex, and just it's just funny. It's kind of like an expansion on what I already talk about when it comes to her and I, but a little bit more. Um, yeah, I don't want to spoil too much. So, but yeah, they're coming along. They're really, really new, so they're really not that great yet. But I'm starting to get some laughs. I'm starting to figure out where to keep working them. But Oh my God, it is so hard to like start with a brand new joke and go to an open mic and just be like, blah, and then just like dead silence. And you're like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? It's like, did I ever get a laugh? It's so funny how that can do that to you. But I found out a new tactic I'm trying where I do something new, and then something I've done before that I know has a couple laughs that's short, and then I try to do some more new stuff in that 5 minutes. I might try it the other way around and do something new in the middle and a starter and a finisher that I've done. So that way maybe it's not so dead doing 5 minutes of just new material because I did do that. I think it was Wednesday night or Tuesday night, and it was just 5 minutes of just new material. And I was just like, I walked off stage. I was like, well, it was like story time. I guess it was interesting, but there was like one chuckle. So, and it kind of kills the room for everyone else. I also realized, which isn't great. So, I think what I'm gonna do is do something I know will at least get something like a laugh or something, and then do some new material and then finish with something. Hopefully that'll be a better approach for open mics. It's just 5 minutes is tough, you know? It's tough. But I'm going to sign up for Kill Tony again in November when I go back. 3 months of signing up for that, including the New Year's Eve show, which I have a ticket for. Actually, I have two tickets. So if you know anyone who wants to go with me to the Moody Center in Austin, Texas, I'm looking for a date. It'll be an arena Kill Tony show, and it's seventh row. I did get good tickets, so I'm excited. But I am going to sign up for the bucket on that show too, which will be interesting. But I do have a pretty solid minute for Kill Tony, so I've had it for a long time and just waiting to get pulled for it. I did start electrolysis 2 weeks ago on my face, so I don't have to shave. Believe it or not, I do shave my face every day, and if I shave early in the morning, then I do need a touch up before evening, late evening to feel comfortable because I start getting a little stubble. Thank God my hair is blonde, so if it does start to come through, it's really hard to see unless you're up close, because it is so light. So I am blessed in that sense, except laser doesn't work for it. So I have to do electrolysis, which my first session was 2 weeks ago, and it was agony. It was so painful. And here I am, tough soldier, Black Hawk pilot. I'm like, oh, I've done some laser. Like, this isn't that bad. Like, it was a whole nother world. I felt like someone had a knife in my face and was just carving back and forth. Like, it was so bad. I started crying, which is rare for me. I just started like tearing up. I was like, I don't know what it was, but just my emotions came over me of like, I can't do this. Like, I'm gonna have to shave for the rest of my life. This sucks. And like, I think it just, I think maybe I was a little hormonal too, which didn't help. I think I had missed a dose, and so I was a little bit more sensitive to just, I don't know. I just got upset. And so we stopped at like 23 minutes of a 30-minute session, so I didn't make it through even such a little session of 30 minutes. Um, and I left, and I immediately got a hold of my GP and asked for numbing cream. I was like, please, like, I'm gonna need numbing cream if I'm gonna do hours and hours of this. Sorry, I got a hair in my mouth. And she did prescribe it, and I put it on and went to my second session last week, actually Friday. And she just worked in one spot, which was this side. And I'm thankfully I'm not too red after it. Like, it's a little puffy, but it's really not that noticeable that I've had it, except for like the first hour or two afterwards. But it was bearable. It was not easy still. It was still painful at times, but between that and I was listening to like Joe Rogan, like podcasts, he had Lionel Richie on, and some of the things they were saying was funny, and that helped to kind of laugh through it. Like 5 shots of vodka and 5 ibuprofen. I'm just kidding, but sort of not true. Sort of true, I mean. It took a lot. It took like a whole mental space to be put in before I walked in there. So it was definitely easier the second time, but not easy. So I made it through the 30 minutes. And I gotta say, for people who've done hours of electrolysis without any numbing cream, without anything, like, holy crap. I thought I was tough. That's a whole nother world of toughness. Whole nother world. I got back into the gym since coming back into the country. So I went to CrossFit last weekend and was sore until this weekend because I just did one workout and I overdid it. I thought I was managing the stimulus in the gym pretty well, and turns out, nope. That's the weird thing about working out. Like, if you're not gone for too long, you don't become too weak to where you can't lift certain weights or do certain movements. But you are gone long enough to where you don't have the muscular endurance to withstand that many, like that much volume or that many repetitions. And so you don't feel it in the moment, maybe a little, but the next day it was like as if I got run over by a truck. It was so bad. It was painful to walk up and down stairs because I did like a lot of deadlifts and wall balls, which are like front squats and stuff. And so that was really tough. It was painful to the touch on my quads, which sucked. So I just did some yoga throughout the week, and then I went today, and I managed the volume a lot better. I think I'm not feeling nearly as bad as I did last weekend, and yeah, it's just I think it's tough taking a break from CrossFit and trying to get back in. But I'm gonna keep going while I can until I go to Texas. And then while I'm in Texas, I think I might try to find a CrossFit gym there. If anyone knows of one in Austin that's, I don't need them to embrace me, but that isn't gonna be weird about me going there, that would be nice. Venus posted something. Oh no, electrolysis sounds worse than sear. I hope it doesn't untrans you. Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I was laying on that bed getting zapped and I was like, it's not worth it. I'll be a boy. I'll be a boy right now. Like, forget all of this. God, it was so bad. It was so bad. I don't know how people do their nether regions. Like, how do people do electrolysis like down there? Because there are women that just do that. Like, it's not just a trans thing. And holy crap, like, put me under anesthesia if you're gonna do that. Please. So that's about all my updates. There's some stuff going on in the news and stuff. I guess I can just touch on. There's like this Riyadh Comedy Festival that everyone's talking about, and that's kind of funny because a lot of the people that are comedians are like, lately at least, they're all like, oh, free speech and all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure they had to sign something, or I'm sure they're under some sort of censorship there that they can't speak badly about um, the royals of Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure there's some topics they can't talk about, um, or else they get arrested probably. But also, like, I don't know if y'all remember. I mean, I wasn't around. I just know it from history. Um, Bon Jovi went to Russia before the wall came down and did shows, and that's not supporting, communism. So I don't I don't usually find I think the hardest part is the money aspect of it, right? So if you're a comedian and you go to Riyadh and you get paid by that royal family, and if you disagree with what they do, then you're taking money that is so I don't know if I agree with it, but some people are calling it like blood money or whatever. But at the same time, like Bon Jovi going to Russia during the communist times when it was the Soviet Union was actually a huge win. Like as far as influence to bring American rock and roll to the other side of the Berlin Wall. And so I don't know, maybe you could spin it that way. I think if I was going, that's how I would spin it. They could even do one more, right? They could donate that money or donate a portion of it to show that, they're going for some more philosophical reason. I think if you just go there and you take the money and you perform, that's up to them to deal with, I guess. I don't know if I could do it. Um, I would want to get invited and do like Tim Dillon did. I don't know if y'all know, but Tim Dillon, a comedian, podcaster, he, I don't know how true any of this is, but I'll just take his word for it. He got an offer to go. He accepted it, so they paid him, I think, like a booking fee, like basically the form of a deposit. And then he went on his show before going there, weeks before going there, and said a bunch of wild stuff about them in a very funny comedic way. And then they canceled him. Like they're like, you can't come. But I'm pretty sure he got to keep some of the money that they used as like a booking with him. And I gotta say, that's if he didn't think about that ahead of time, that's a great strategy. Is like get them to agree and then say a bunch of wild stuff so that way they say you can't come anymore and walk away with some money. Like that's pretty cool. That's like a weird protest, right? I'm all for it. I'm all for Tim Dillon's approach. I think that was clever. Another comment from Venus. I bet Saudi Arabia would welcome a trans Jew with open arms. Yeah, that would be funny, right? I'd go in Tim Dillon's place. And you know what? I probably would go because a trans Jew convert performing in Saudi Arabia, like I said, I would probably donate a huge chunk, or if not all of it, to something. I would do that after I come back, right? So that way it doesn't impact their decision on accepting me to come there. But if I could go there and they guaranteed I would not be arrested, I would definitely go. I would definitely play by their rules the whole time I'm there, and then I would come back and donate all that money to something, um, whether it be to a trans organization or a Jewish organization or something, right? And use that as a form of protest, I think would be an interesting way to go because I get the visibility being there to their citizenship that would normally not see someone like me, right? So that's a win. Kind of like that Bon Jovi example I was giving. But then also, the money I wouldn't take it, so then I would be clear conscious, right, to sleep at night. That no, I use that money for good. I don't know. What do you all think about that? Would that make it okay? I wonder. I wonder how people would feel about that one. It sounds too nuanced, so probably people would ignore it altogether. Uh, let's see. States' rights is under threat lately. If you haven't noticed, there's been federalization of the National Guard, which is exciting. For a party, the Republicans are really big on states' rights. And when you force governors to either use their National Guard or else will federalize them, you're kind of stepping on states' rights. And so, just me being a former Guard member, I can tell you that being a political pawn absolutely sucks, and it happens a lot. And we work daily jobs. There's nurses, there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's people like me. Like, we do things during the week. We're not soldiers full time. And then to get federalized and put on active duty for something that maybe we're not needed for, so that way we can walk around and be photo opt for, Trump and Kristi Noem and all those people. I can tell you that not one soldier wants that. They're going to be good and disciplined, of course, and be respectful, but deep down, I don't know of anyone who would want that. Now, if there's an actual need, soldiers, especially Guard members, they want to help. Like we had floods in Southwest Virginia last year, and we were all excited to go and help because that's like a legit reason. We want to help our fellow citizens, our fellow, Virginians. But to get deployed into your downtowns, like say if I was in Illinois and I get called up to go stand around downtown around some protests, like that's what there's federal police forces, there's local police forces, there's state trooper, like there's so many organizations for that that the National Guard really needs to be a last resort because if they get pulled onto active duty like this regularly, especially against the governor's wishes, it burns them out. It puts a huge tax on your families and your civilian employers. So most of these guard members aren't full time. They have jobs. They Monday through Friday or whatever, right? Like I said, a lot of them are doctors. A lot of them, what's funny is a good amount of guard members are also police officers for their local area. So like you're just taking them away as a police officer and turning them back into the same spot as a soldier, which is goofy because more than likely the soldier's going to have less legal authority than that local police officer would to arrest people and investigate and do things. It's just guard members don't usually get that kind of authority, but it's just goofy. Like it's hard enough to keep National Guard members employed outside of the Guard because of the demands of being a Guard member, because of the training requirements and the this and the that. And it's like employers have to really work with Guard members to make sure that they come back into the job and their payroll is good and they can be on projects and not have to disappear all the time. And so for it to be frivolous, which is what it looks like it is, um, I, th- I think it sucks. I think it sucks. Now, if there's a real justified reason for it, like, yeah, great. But I'm pretty sure Governor Pritzker would do that. He has family members that were in the Illinois National Guard, so it's not like he's removed from the idea of the Guard and using them. Um, and also, like, if you're a Republican and you say states' rights, like, let him handle it. Like, it's his state. Let him use his police forces and his guard how he thinks is fit. Like, that's the whole point of having states' rights is they voted for him as a governor, and that's who they want leading them. They don't want the president coming in and just federalizing their citizens to play soldier, you know? Another comment from Venus. I think Northcom gave the California National Guard the option to volunteer or decline when they activated in LA. Unsure if that will apply to other cities. That's pretty cool. If they give them the option to decline, I think that's great. If everyone declined, I think someone would be forced, though. Like, I don't think, at some point it becomes you're voluntold, or they use all the full-time guard members, the ones that are actually full-time in the guard for the state. They kind of run the day-to-day for all the part-timers. What ends up happening is they usually get overused. Those are your people on active duty orders for the state, or they're on or their AGR, which is active guard reserve status, and so or federal technicians even like we have at our facility, which are full timers through the federal program, but you have to be a guard member in order to be one. It's kind of a weird dual status thing. So what happens is those folks end up bearing the brunt of it if you're a traditional guard member like I was traditional part-time 1 week in a month 2 weeks out of the year plus flight requirements. So if I were to decline, if there was an option during the federalization to decline, then that means someone else is going to have to go, and it's going to be one of the full timers who gets roped into it, and their livelihood's on the line because if they say no to their commanding officer to go do something while they're on active duty, then it's kind of a sticky situation. So I don't know. It's just goofy. I'm all about states' rights when it comes to certain things. And so I would like to see the Republicans doing that when it comes to the deployments. The government also shut down on Friday, so they can't even figure it out. So that's fun. Um, I know I have family members that were furloughed and different people that are not getting paid, and I'm pretty sure the folks that were on drill weekend and stuff this weekend for the National Guard, I think they heavily reduced their flight hours and stuff, and they're not doing nearly as much training as they're supposed to be doing. Stuff that was scheduled is canceled. So that's cool. If you don't know, Virginia budget is heavily impacted by federal budgets. It's the same like that in every state. They can't quite operate without them. And so when the federal government shuts down, it does impact state resources. A lot of like state health departments actually lose when the government shuts down. They struggle as well. And so it's really interesting to see the impact it has. Trying to see what else. Oh, like this whole like drug boat thing. Like, you know, the US government just blowing drug boats out of the water. Like what is that all about? Like I swear, like I scroll on the internet and see headlines. I'm just like, what? What year is this? You know, like that meme of gosh, Robin Williams and I was about to say tsunami. It's not tsunami. It's Jumanji. Like, what year is it when he comes out and he's got like the beard and everything? That's how I feel. Like, I'm just like, what timeline are we in? It's some sort of weird alternate timeline. Up is down, down is up. 2 + 2 = 5. It's just weird. It's weird because this is just a typical like. I'll read this to you. Legally, how he's trying to get away with this, how the administration is getting away with this, is they're calling it a non-international armed conflict with cartels. It is declared that. It's like, well, what the heck does that even mean? Well, let me read that to you as well. Somewhere in here. I thought I had the definition. I have the definition of fascist. We can talk about that. What does that mean? It's a very specific legal term for international humanitarian law, the laws of war. So that's not a domestic US term, non-international armed conflict. That covers you internationally through Geneva Conventions. That's what I was looking for. The issue when it comes to the US legality is that the president has like the War Powers Act, so he can do certain limited targeted strikes, and then within 48 hours, I think the Congress is supposed to weigh in on that. And you have like 60 to 90 days total, and then Congress is supposed to decide. But if Congress decides not to do anything about it, then the president can just keep doing it. You know, it's not like there's any kind of um, any other kind of check and balance for it. I guess unless somebody brings it up to the Supreme Court through like a legal action, right? Someone sues. But as far as any other checks and balances, Congress is supposed to check this power. But after 2001, 9/11, Congress gave way too much power to the executive through the authorization of use of military force, the AUMF, which was signed in 2001, which covers broadly terrorist activities. This is how Obama was able to do the drone strikes and stuff, which Republicans criticized. And once again, if you don't limit the executive, the next one's going to do it more or take it further. And so the AUMF was made so that way, basically, the war on terror could happen. A lot of people were really angry and really upset after 9/11, and people wanted action. People were chomping at the bit for elected officials to do something. And so they were trying to get Congress on board with signing this thing. And it ended up, I watched a documentary on it. It was actually really fascinating. Some of the folks that were writing it, I think Panetta maybe was one of them that was being interviewed. I'm not too sure. It's been a while, but it boiled down to my impression of it through the documentary. The folks that were all involved was it boiled down to we didn't think we could get everyone on board to agree to certain things, so they made it vague, so that way it would actually pass. They weren't making it vague for any, no, this is their words. They weren't making it vague for any other reason, but they're making it vague enough so that way it would actually pass Congress. The problem was afterwards, and this is what the writers even said, is they didn't realize how unlimited it could be beyond 9/11 events because it was too vague to limit it towards certain countries or certain areas or certain time frames. And so we've been striking at people with drones and rockets and now drug boats in the Caribbean with this broad war powers act, the AUMF, that came from the war on terror. So that way we could go and hunt terrorists that we suspected were going to attack the US to do a second 9/11, right? Anywhere they were in the country or in the continent or in the world, I mean. And that still exists. It doesn't have a time limit. It doesn't have a any kind of expiration on it. And Congress has abdicated their duty to declare war. So they're totally fine with letting the executive do it because whoever's in office, that side of Congress likes their choices or supports it. They don't want to hold executives accountable anymore. And that is the biggest issue I see with declaring this international war type definition on these cartels and then using the AUMF to get away with it. Um, there's a couple other issues with it. There, like you could claim self-defense, but also a drug boat like that's not shooting at you. Like I could see them like seizing them at ports or doing some sort of sting operations. Like I that totally makes sense. But some boat just going across in the water that you think is whatever it is, and then you just blow them out of the water, killing four people. I just don't see how that's any different than the drone strikes that ended up. I think one of them under Obama killed an American or something, right? Like there was somebody that was collateral in one of those shots, and it's just really scary to be in a situation where the government can decide to execute someone regardless without any due process. If we're at war, Congress needs to declare it. If cartels are considered combatants or criminals, what are they? Are they criminals? Then they should be tried. If they're combatants, then what country do they represent? What organization do they represent? Like it just feels like I just hope it's like you don't want it to be true, but it just feels like it's political. It's just political scoring. It's because it's immediately posted on social media under the White House's account on Twitter or X. And it's a video of us killing four people that we don't know anything about. We're just taking the word for it at the government. And Congress is like, sure. Same thing with what ICE is doing. We hope they're doing the right thing. We hope all the warrants and all the things make sense because we wouldn't want an executive doing this to us, right? Like, just like if the Democrats were in power and the Democrats were doing this, the Republicans wouldn't want this show of federal force into state sovereignty. I know they wouldn't because they're all about states' rights, but because their guy is doing it, they don't care. And Congress is once again just abdicating their job. They're abdicating it so much that they let the government shut down, and they keep doing their the budgets on continuing resolutions. That just keeps the same thing going for a little bit longer. like Congress, this is like the do nothing Congress. They haven't passed really anything that's been meaningful to people. Everything's been done through the executive since January. It's all executive orders. I just don't know what we're getting. I don't know what we're getting that's going to be lasting. It just seems like political wins, and it seems like a weird social media trolling game with this administration. And we see the Democrats doing the same thing now. They're trying to play the same game with Gavin Newsom's like trolling of Trump and trying to be edgy and funny like the Trump stuff is. And yeah, I agree, Venus. She said, or they said, agree the AEMF needs to be repealed or amended. It does. Something's got to be done with it, but I don't think anything will because Congress loves it. They love it when their executive gets to use it. Another comment from Venus. It's odd that people are concerned about drug boats and not the Houthi or ISIS strikes in Somalia, though. Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of it, right? The drug boats are strange because I think for people, it's easier to contextualize ISIS is a terrorist organization that's operating in this country that's doing bad things. And that falls in line with more of what the 9/11 AMF was all about. And so I think people are less sensitive to it. Um, the cartel boats, criminals just driving a boat around in international waters and just blowing them out of the water without them doing any kind of shooting or any kind of like they're not they're just driving a boat. I think that's shocking. And then also, of course, the kill cams that are being posted about it. Um, we don't see too many. We at least we didn't used to see many of the kill cams on strikes. We just airstrikes happened in this place, and it was just a little blurb in the news. But when when the administration is celebrating it and pushing the video content out about it, it gives me pause because while I love the full force and might the US can do when it comes to justice and taking care of people and all of the things, I don't love when we beat our chest about it and we boast. And that's at odds with the administration because President Trump is definitely someone who wants to take credit and boast about it. That's just his personality. But that's not, historically, that's not been the US. We've always been kind of like, our citizenry will brag, right? Like, oh, the US is the best. But we've always been somewhat reserved, I think, when it comes to the executive, like posting videos of blowing boats out of the water. Like, it just makes me think if we ever were in like a war, like that's how it would be fought is, the White House posting videos of people blowing up and look what we did and clicks and views and subscribe, smash that like button type behavior. And I don't know. Back in my day, like it's just gross. It's gross. I keep calling it the memification. It's the memification of our government and of us as a society. Like we all operate in memes, whether it's a GIF or something that can be summed up in a meme. If it can't be summed up in a meme, then it's not effective policy anymore, right? Because that's all people have attention spans for, which once again, it's just scary. Non-international armed conflict, a legal way of saying we're at war, but not with a country or any groups. I just don't get how that's legal. Except that the War Powers Resolution of 1973, and you combine that with Commander-in-Chief powers, which is broad, and the 2001 AMF, which is vague. Mm, I think it's a stretch, But once again, there's so many challenges in the U.S. in the courts over this administration because he's doing so many executive orders. People don't often say that. They say, "Oh, the courts are stopping everything Trump's trying to do." It's like, well, he's also signing more executive orders and he's doing more through executive orders than most presidents do. So there's going to be more challenges because they're not using Congress to pass laws. Once again, Congress is abdicating their responsibility. And when you do that, you get an authoritarian. Because if Congress isn't going to check them, then you get a 4 year or 8 year authoritarian. And then when the next one comes in, they do the same thing, except it's the reverse, right? It's this terrible pendulum swinging. Um, and it's just sad. It's just sad. It's a lot of doom and gloom for today. Is there anything happy I can end on? What else we got? Mm, I think that's about it. We've got comedy show Sunday, another comedy show on the 22nd. So I'm performing those two, working new jokes, going back to Austin, Texas, November 1st. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to do that. One more looks like chat from Venus. Perhaps if the right wingers aren't open to having you on their podcast, the libertarians might open some doors. Kind of shocked that Dark Horse didn't garner more interest. Yeah, Dark Horse did help a lot with my X following because I was a brand new account when that episode came out. And it did give me, I think, my first like 500 or 800 followers. Um, I would have thought too, like being on with Brett Weinstein would have given me some libertarian, like you said, or social credit for like, hey, like this person spoke for 2 hours with Brett Weinstein, like maybe there's something more there that we could talk about. Um, and off camera, it seemed like Brett was hinting that, he seemed to think more people would be reaching out to me after that episode. Um, but it did help. I've had many people say that that's how they saw me or that's how they heard my story. So I'm not knocking it at all. I think it's also just foolish to be like, maybe not foolish, but just like silly to be like, oh, I'm gonna um do this one podcast as a nobody and immediately get full court press. It's been slow over time. Things have been building as more things happening. I've had people tell me to start writing chapters for a book because this is just a crazy ride I've been on. And so maybe if I were to publish something that would get me on more podcasts to talk about the book or something. I don't know. I don't know if I have time to start that yet. That's what these videos are helping me do is just capture this as it's happening because journaling is tough to do when it comes to just sitting down by myself and doing it. I'm much better at just talking it out. So I figure why not just live stream my journaling, sparing a few personal details, of course. But yeah, I would have loved a little bit more from Dark Horse. Um, I think it I think it was a bigger risk to him doing that, having me on, because he had gotten a following, I think, that was on the gender critical side. And his wife is very much outspoken about certain things about trans activists that she disagrees with. And I actually agree with her on some of her points too. So I'm not saying that her points are wrong. Um, but I think some of them were surprised to see him platform a trans person. Now, he platformed me in a way that was appropriate, but most people just saw a trans person and got mad. And so they moved on. Velocity Raptor. Good luck with your upcoming show. Thank you. Appreciate that. Who is this? Kaneki Ken, is that right? Says hi. Hi. Let's see. Another comment from Venus. You're just so smart and nuanced. it's sad people can't overlook the transition because they have so much else to offer. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. But thank you. I'm teasing. I'm just one day I'll get good at accepting compliments. I do appreciate your kind words, and it does mean a lot to see those. It's weird for me to read them over this video though. But I think everyone knows I try to be humble, and that's one of my core values actually is humble. The other one is hungry. Hungry not like as in food, but hungry because I want to learn. Growth minded. Growth mindset is a big deal. And then happy because if whatever you're doing, you're not happy about it, then what's the point? So those are my three core values: humble, hungry, happy. I stole them from Patrick Lencioni, which is an author of a book, The Ideal Team Player. And his was humble, hungry, people smart, which talks about emotional intelligence and being good with people. So I adjusted those a little bit and got them from, I think, also Ben Bergeron, which is a CrossFit coach and entrepreneur. I think he used Humble, Hungry, Happy, and that's where I got it from. He was also a big fan of that book. That's actually, I went to one of his seminars, and that's how I learned about the book. And those, I don't know, those are like three core values: humble, hungry, and happy. Um, Try to be humble in what I do. I'm not the smartest person in the room. Um, and then hungry is in like chasing after it. Uh, in a respectful way, not overly ambitious. And then happy. My general state is happy, especially now, especially after transitioning. Like, God, it's so much better. Um, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but for me, internally operating, it's so much better to just look at yourself in the mirror and actually like what you see and it not be at odds with yourself. Um, yeah. And I tell my ex-wife this all the time. I wouldn't be who I am without her because she kind of gave me the permission in a way to transition. Not that she was keeping me from it, but I wouldn't have done it if she hadn't have said what she said, which was you need to do what you need to do for your health. And so I started going down that road, and she said she would be there for me in whatever way she could, which was not the same way as being married, but it was still something. And yeah, it really, it's better. I wouldn't have expected being thrown into the public spotlight and all the crazy stuff that ensued. But up until that happened in January, I was telling her, I was like, I didn't realize there was another tier to the happiness that I was. Like I was happy. It was not like I was a depressed person. I struggle with gender dysphoria, but it wasn't until I transitioned that I realized like, oh, there's this whole other way of being that's pretty awesome. Like the content, the inner content that I'd been seeking most of my life, I finally found. Yes, you have a lot to offer, says Kaneki Ken. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And good luck, he says. Thank you. Emotional intelligence to use in social settings is a bit difficult. It is. Even in relationships, I've been dating a little bit, and I find that not to toot my own horn, but when one person's emotional intelligence is like here and the other person's is here, the person with more emotional intelligence, and I've heard this from other people too, not just from my perspective, but my perspective is when I'm up here and they're down here when it comes to emotional intelligence, I have to do way more work to meet them where they are. And so it's nicer when you're closer to parity because then you can both kind of talk on the same level and communicate that way. But when one person's dramatically different than the other, it puts a huge strain on usually the more emotional intelligent person because they recognize the issues and then they're going around and around to try to like make it work and meet them where they are. At least that's been my experience, and it's exhausting. And then it usually brings out the worst in the more intelligent person because they know better and then they still end up burning out. And so it's just not good. And someone who can't communicate the way you need to, that's a red flag. Unfortunately. Okay, can emotional intelligence choose? Oh, I read that one. Venus, there is a Triple H joke somewhere in these values. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Humble, hungry, happy. That is a Triple H for sure. Kaneki can. Interesting idea. I never thought about it that way. Yeah, I think it's true. Now that I'm dating and I'm not with the person I was in a long-term marriage where we would work and we started growing together in that way. There was a gap even in my marriage at first. She tended to shut down and just wait a couple days and then not talk about whatever it was that caused an issue. And I tended to be the person that was very uncomfortable sitting with it for any period of time and just wanted to kind of hash it out like, hey, can we just talk about this? And so it took a long time, a lot of effort on my part to kind of bring her along with the idea of being open and talking. And then we got there, and then it was great. We kind of brought her up to that level through therapy and other things, and me just being patient. I wasn't always, and it caused issues. But once we got there, it was actually really good. And then we grew together in that way, and we've got such a great relationship even today. Even though that we're not married anymore, we still hang out all the time and have dinner all the time. And like I said, I cooked Rosh Hashanah meal, and she came over and just enjoyed it and talked. Um, but it's tough when dating because now I don't have any patience to to not have someone where I am when it comes to that. And it is refreshing when you find someone that maybe has more tools than you do in that world, because then it's like, oh wow, like I actually get to learn something and grow with somebody. But yeah, if you're coming in and you've got all that emotional intelligence, maybe you've done a lot of therapy work and you're just in a different place, it's not going to work no matter how good looking and how smart they are and all of the things that might check all the boxes. That person is just all that is great, but it's the disagreements that make or break relationships. It's not the good times. So how do those people handle that? And that's what I struggle with, right? Is um I don't have the patience when I'm meeting and I'm dating now because I've had a long marriage. I actually had two marriages, but the first one was kind of a flash and bang. Second one was long term and it's the one I talk about all the time. And it was so good. And so I don't have the patience to start over with someone and start the whole process of learning how to communicate. So I think they're always going to be until I find someone that I actually want to settle down with, maybe down the road. I think I'm just not open to the idea of going through the difficult conversations part with someone who doesn't know how to communicate already. Um, so you kind of have to be out of the box in some aspects if you're going to have a relationship. Now, if we're just going to have dates and have fun and we're not going to get into that kind of relationship stuff, then great. Like, we'll just casually date. Kaneki Ken, what would you advise someone like me who struggles to stop fetishizing trans? Oh, that's interesting. I always try to remind myself to be more social and decent. These are intrusive thoughts in my mind. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what to say with that one. Um, I would say if it's porn driven, I don't know anything about this. Um, so grain of salt. If it's porn driven, stop watching it. That'll help a lot. Um, from what I understand, right? If it's intrusive, right? So like watching porn's not going to help with intrusive thoughts. It's only going to keep it at the top of your mind. So if you are watching that, right? Like I mean, we all have our thing. Like I have my kinks and stuff that I think about in certain intimate times, but um they rarely get in the way during everyday life. And so if it's bothering you and keeping you from doing things and it's impacting your life, right? Then that is no longer something fun that you do. That is a closer to what people would call like an addiction or something, right? Something that causes a problem. It's like drinking, right? So if you socially drink, but it doesn't impact your job, and when you go to your work, you're not thinking about drinking all day and having intrusive thoughts about drinking and can't wait for your next drink, right? Like you're probably fine. But if that is the case, if that is how you're going throughout your day, then you probably have a drinking problem, you know? So I would say the same with fetishizing trans people. Like if that is a struggle, um, stop consuming the content. Yeah, stop consuming the content. Find something else to do, like go to the gym or find something to distract yourself for a while, and eventually you'll build those new habits. There's a really good book. It's not about addictiveness, but it's about habit setting, which I love. And it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I think that is a great book for anybody if they haven't read it. New Year's resolutioners to people who just want to get healthier and go to the gym more, to people who want to start a business, people who want to write a book. It talks about stacking habits and tiny changes that lead to remarkable results. And so with that, you have kind of the phrase 1% better every day is the aggregation of marginal gains. And so if you increase 1% and you look at that over a chart, there's a chart in the book, and it's really cool. It shows a curve. It's exponential, right? And it leads to like 37 times as the result at the end of a year, I think is what the figure was. Versus the inverse of that is if you're not 1% better every day, then it leads to, you know, a slow decline. And so 1% is not that much, right? And it talks about voting for the person you want to be, which I found is a great concept. It's as we know in elections and politics, you don't win by getting 100% of the vote. You win by getting just over 50%, right? Just enough to beat the other side. And in Atomic Habits, it talks about when you're setting those behaviors that you want in yourself, whether it's eating better or maybe watching less porn or whatever it is, you set those habits by voting for the person you want to be, which is you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be 100%. It's going to be one of those, today, I'll just use the example of eating healthy because I used to coach fitness and that was always easier as an example. I want to eat healthy. Well, you're not going to eat perfect every day, but you're going to try. And so, um, when you think about eating that next thing, is it is it keeping you on track or is it going to derail you? Well, keeping you on track is you're voting for that person, the person who eats well, the person who doesn't watch whatever it is, or the person who doesn't drink, right? Every time you don't drink, you're voting for the person you want to be. And every time you do take a drink, you're voting for the person you don't want to be. And you need to get to 50% or more. So the majority of the time you're voting for the right thing. You're voting for the person you want to be. Doesn't mean it's 100%. You just need to get to 50, 51%. And so I think that helps. I think that helps a lot is to not hold yourself to perfection, but to hold yourself to small changes over time that add up. And just think about it. Like if you set your identity more towards, I am the person who works out or I am the person who goes for a run versus I want to be someone who's a runner, right? Like even just framing it that way. Because if you say, I am a runner, well, now you get up in the morning and you run, right? Because that is what a runner does. Whereas if you still see yourself as not that, but you're trying to be that, you're saying, I want to be that, which means you need to find motivation to do the things that a runner does versus just taking on that persona of, no, I'm a runner. I run 3 days a week or whatever it is. If I don't run, I make sure I hit the next one if I miss one. If I don't feel like it, I'm going to at least lace up my running shoes and get moving. And if I don't feel like running after putting on my shoes, I'll at least walk, right? Like it's all about that kind of mindset shift that takes a lot of hard work and time. And you have to be intentional about it. But yes, Atomic Habits is, I hope I did it justice, but it's a great book. It's great on audio as well. You can listen to it. It's really good. But reading it's nice too. Let's see. Yeah, Atomic Habits, look it up. Yeah, sure thing. Another question from Ken. How did you deal with confronting the hierarchy in work environments? I struggle being frank because I am very emotionally reactive and I end up quitting without any notification. I'm not sure if I quite understand that one. Hierarchy in work environments. Huh. Yeah, just if you set your environment to what you want, surround yourself with people that are also the types of people you want to be like, that can help too. It's really hard to, for example, stop drinking. Um, if you're around a bunch of people that are drinking. Not saying that you can't ever hang out with people who drink again. It's just that when you're new and you're starting a habit, you want to eliminate all of those decisions, those micro decisions you have to make, because you do get into what they call decision fatigue, which is if I'm always having to choose the right thing, it becomes exhausting, and you might start giving up. Um, Thank you for the answers. Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, Atomic Habits, check it out. Like talking with a high up boss. I never have any trouble talking to my bosses at work. Um, I actually just got promoted at my civilian job, so now I am a boss. So I'm a manager now. So I manage a team of awesome nerds. I was an IT engineer, so I was the nerd, and now I've ascended to queen nerd, leader of the nerds. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about responsibility, right? So like your your break down the word, your ability to respond, your responsibility. So your reaction isn't entirely your control. Now there's techniques you can use to help with what your reaction might be. And that would be like breathing techniques, like taking a deep breath, thinking before you say, all those real basic stuff. But it takes that kind of effort. And like I said, if you read the two books I've mentioned in this podcast, The Ideal Team Player, which is great at figuring out where your strengths are as a team player and how to be a good team player in any environment. Um, that was huge because that allowed me to become critical to the team, which helped me advance slowly to leadership. And then there's also another author that I'm obsessed with. His name is Cal Newport, and he writes the book So Good They Can't Ignore You, which was a big book of his, but then also a whole bunch of other productivity books. And he's got a podcast that's really good too. Um, he has another book called like A World Without Email, and just like the idea of knowledge workers burning themselves out responding over chat all day versus actually getting work done. And it's really good stuff. And so good they can't ignore you is the idea that you maximize whatever unique skills you have to offer to where you become that critical person, which lets you trade your critical skills for things you want, like work from home or a better work-life balance. But it takes some sort of effort up front to become that person that's so good at whatever it is that now you can kind of make those trade-offs with whoever it is. Um, and so if you combine that with Atomic Habits by James Clear, and then The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni, and one or two of Cal Newport's productivity books, so good they can't ignore you, right? You can become like I don't know. I found them extremely helpful. I When I got into CrossFit, um, I also dove down the podcast book like wormhole. Um, and that's how I came across all these books was CrossFit coaches who coached competitors at the highest levels were recommending these books. And they're like work productivity books, right? And but they yet they apply so well to either running a CrossFit gym or being a competitor at a high level because they found that once you had the physical attributes of a competitor, the difference was between the ears. It was how you thought about things, how you actualized the day, and kind of that mental athlete, I guess. And so I just found that fascinating. And so I listened to a whole lot of podcasts on that for years and tried to drip that in to folks that I manage at my work. And then also when I was a coach, I really liked geeking out on this stuff and teaching people how to be better humans. And so that's what I did. You're welcome. You're welcome. And thanks, Velocity Raptor. It's a congrats. And Kaneki Kins, thank you very much. Thank you. And Venus, love the self-help tips. Can you end with a joke or a giggle, please? Should I do a raunchy joke? I have some that I've been working. I could test one on you all and just have fun with it. Or should I do I don't know. I don't think I have any wholesome jokes to be honest. I just have raunchy ones. Oh God. Oh, here. All right. Someone post in chat. Should I do a raunchy joke? Do y'all want to hear a raunchy joke? Feel free to practice. All right. Venus said go, so I'm gonna go. So I am single now. I've been dating. And I'm what I've been dating men and women actually. And so that's been interesting because I've never dated men before. I'm what they call a pansexual, or as I like to call it, I'll take any sexual because I'm just lonely. And so dating has been interesting, especially men. I was actually hooking up with a guy recently in Texas. And sorry, it's just making me laugh thinking about it. And so I was giving my first blowjob. And it turns out I'm not that good at it. And so I don't know, I was struggling. And then he tried to blow me and he wasn't that good at it either. You would think because we have the same because we have the equipment, we would know how to do that, right? It doesn't transfer. It does not transfer that way. My ex was really good at it, going down and giving blowjobs. So when I was hooking up with this guy, we kind of took a break and I called her. I said, "Hey, what was it that you did down there?" Because I wasn't looking. You know, my eyes were closed, my toesies were spread like stars. You know, I was assuming the male position during those times. And she told me, "Oh, yeah, I learned this over time. Like, I had to look it up. It's called the two-hand twist." I'm like, "What the fuck is a two-hand twist?" And she said, "Oh, it's like where you take your hands and you kind of go, you counter twist, right, directions and stroke up and down, and you just use your mouth on the head for pressure and moisture. And it's all about what you do with your hands, not so much about what you actually do with your mouth. And that can actually you have more endurance that way because you're using your arms more than you actually using your mouth at all." It's like, holy crap. And it worked. It worked. I went back into the other room and we both gave it a shot. And sure enough, like microwave popcorn, we both popped real easy. Oh my God. So that was good. Two-hand twist. Y'all might want to try that sometime. If you find yourselves um, doing that with anybody, two-hand twist. It's a good tip. All right. Y'all have a good one. Thank you so much. Bye.